HOA held a ribbon cutting on my land, and my best friend the county governor asked who owned it. Sarah stared out her kitchen window, coffee mug clutched tightly in her hands. The steam rose lazily, but her mind was anything but calm. Across the street, in the cul-de-sac that backed onto her property, a group of neighbors gathered like vultures around a fresh kill. Balloons bobbed in the breeze, tied to folding chairs arranged in neat rows. A red ribbon stretched between two stakes, gleaming under the morning sun. It was the HOA's latest community enhancement project, a new playground, they called it. But Sarah knew better. Those stakes were driven into the edge of her land, the 2-acre plot she'd inherited from her grandparents. The one she'd fought tooth and nail to keep undeveloped, a quiet buffer between her modest ranch house and the sprawling suburbia that had crept in over the years. Her phone buzzed on the counter. It was a text from her best friend, Mark, the county governor, of all people. They'd grown up together in this very neighborhood, back when it was just farms and open fields. Now he was the big shot in local politics, and she was, well, just trying to hold on to what was hers. Hey, Sar, heard about the ribbon cutting. Whose land is that anyway? HOA says it's communal. Call me. Sarah's stomach twisted. Communal? That was a lie. She'd checked the deeds herself, paid a surveyor last year when the whispers started. The land was hers, clear as day. But the HOA president, Karen Wilkins, yes, her name was actually Karen, had been gunning for it ever since she moved in 5 years ago. Karen, with her perfectly coiffed blonde bob, her endless supply of pastel cardigans, and her unyielding belief that the neighborhood needed uniformity to thrive. Sarah set her mug down, the ceramic clinking against the granite like a warning shot. She grabbed her keys and stepped outside, the crisp autumn air biting at her cheeks. The ceremony was starting. She could hear Karen's voice, amplified by a cheap microphone, droning on about community spirit and investing in our children's future. Sarah crossed the street, her boots crunching on the gravel shoulder. Neighbors turned to look, some with sympathy, others with that smug indifference that came from not wanting to rock the boat. There was Tom, the retired accountant next door, fiddling with his hearing aid. He'd complained to her last week about his mailbox being the wrong shade of beige, thanks to Karen's latest crusade. And Linda, the single mom with 2 kids, who whispered that the HOA fees were killing her budget, but smiled brightly now, not daring to cross the queen bee. Sarah approached the edge of the group, arms crossed. The playground equipment, swings, a slide, even a small climbing wall, sat gleaming new, installed overnight by some crew Karen had hired, right on Sarah's property line, or rather, 6 feet over it. Karen spotted her immediately. The woman's eyes narrowed, but her smile didn't falter. She was mid-speech. And with this playground, we're not just building structures, we're building bonds. Bonds that will last generations. Applause rippled through the crowd. Karen held up oversized scissors, the kind meant for photo ops. Before we cut this ribbon, I'd like to thank our generous donors and the board for making this possible. Sarah couldn't hold it in anymore. She stepped forward, her voice cutting through the murmurs. Karen, this is on my land. You know that. The crowd hushed. Karen turned, her expression a perfect mask of surprise. Oh, Sarah, I didn't see you there. Honey, we've been over this. The survey from '98 shows this as easement property. It's for the community. That's not true, Sarah shot back, her cheeks flushing. She felt eyes on her, judging, pitying. I've got the deeds. My grandparents own this outright. No easement. Karen waved a hand dismissively, still holding those ridiculous scissors. Well, dear, perhaps you should check with the county. I'm sure Governor Mark can clarify. He's a friend of yours, isn't he? The way she said it, like a weapon. Sarah's friendship with Mark was no secret, but Karen twisted it, implying favoritism. A few neighbors exchanged glances. One woman, Betsy from down the block, whispered loudly enough to hear. Always pulling strings, that one. Sarah's fists clenched. She wasn't pulling anything. Mark had offered help once, but she'd refused, wanting to handle it herself. Now it felt like a trap. Karen leaned in closer, her voice lowering but still audible to those nearby. Sarah, let's not make a scene. This is for the kids. Think of the children. Classic Karen move. Invoke the kids to shut down dissent. Sarah glanced at the playground. 2 little girls were already eyeing the swings, their parents hovering. It did look nice, she had to admit, but it wasn't theirs to take. This isn't over, Sarah muttered, turning on her heel. She stormed back to her house, heart pounding. Inside, she slammed the door, leaning against it as tears pricked her eyes. Why did this hurt so much? It wasn't just the land, it was the principle. Her grandparents had worked that soil, planted the old oak tree that now shaded the edge of the playground. It was her last connection to them. And Karen? She was the epitome of suburban entitlement. Moved in from the city, elected HOA president in a landslide because she promised upgrades, and now ruled with an iron fist. Fining people for overgrown lawns, dictating fence heights, even banning certain car colors in driveways. Sarah had gotten a notice last month for her unsightly vegetable garden. She'd ignored it. Her phone rang. Mark. She answered, trying to steady her voice. Sar? You okay? I just got a call from the office. HOA filed some paperwork claiming adverse possession. Adverse possession? Sarah's blood ran cold. That was legal speak for squatting long enough to claim ownership. But they'd only been encroaching for months, not years. What's going on, Mark? He sighed. Look, Karen's husband is on the planning board. They might be pushing boundaries. Literally. Come down to the office. We'll sort it. Sarah hesitated. She didn't want to drag him into this. But what choice did she have? Fine. I'll be there in an hour. She hung up, grabbing her coat. Outside, the ribbon-cutting cheers echoed. Karen's laughter carried on the wind. Sarah drove to the county building, mind racing. Mark greeted her in the lobby, his suit crisp, but his eyes warm, like the old days. They'd been inseparable as kids, biking these streets, dreaming big. Now, he was governor, married with kids of his own. She was divorced, childless, clinging to her roots. In his office, he pulled up maps on his computer. See here? Your deed is solid. But the HOA's claiming a clerical error from the 90s redistricting. Sarah leaned in. That's bullshit. Mark chuckled. Language, Sar. But yeah. Problem is, Karen's got pull. Her groups donated to half the council. Tension knotted in Sarah's chest. So what? They just take it. Not if we fight. But it'll get ugly. Lawsuits, hearings. Sarah rubbed her temples. She pictured Karen's smug face. The meltdowns she'd witnessed last summer, when a neighbor painted their door red without approval. Karen had screamed in the street, calling it an assault on property values. Now, it was Sarah's turn. Back home that evening, Sarah paced her living room. The playground lights, solar-powered, of course, flickered on as dusk fell. Kids laughed, swinging high. It should have been sweet. Instead, it fueled her anger. A knock at the door. She opened it to find Tom, hat in hand. Sarah, I saw what happened. Karen's gone too far. He shifted uncomfortably. But folks are scared. She threatened to up fees if anyone opposes. Sarah nodded, empathy mixing with frustration. Thanks for saying something, Tom. He left, and she closed the door, resolve hardening. She wouldn't let this slide. That night, she emailed her lawyer, attaching the deeds. But sleep evaded her. Visions of revenge danced, petty ones, like planting thorny bushes along the line, or accidentally watering the equipment with soapy runoff. No, she thought. Be smart. The next morning, another text from Mark. HOA board meeting tonight. You should come. Sarah dressed carefully, jeans, blouse, nothing flashy. She arrived at the community center early. The room filled with neighbors, chatter buzzing. Karen presided at the front, gavel in hand. The meeting started with approvals, minutes, budgets. Then, open forum. Sarah stood. I'd like to address the playground encroachment. Karen's smile tightened. Sarah, we've discussed this privately. The board has voted. It's done. Not on my land, Sarah said, voice steady. Murmurs rippled. A man in the back, new neighbor, she didn't know his name, spoke up. Wait, is this true? We paid for that. Karen banged the gavel. Order. The land is disputed, but we're proceeding in good faith. Sarah pulled out printed maps. Here's proof. County records. She passed them around. Karen's face reddened. This is disruptive. Security, escort her out. But there was no security, just volunteers. Linda stood. Karen, maybe we should look. Others nodded. Tension crackled. Karen slammed the gavel again. Fine. But if this delays progress, it's on you all. The meeting devolved into arguments. Sarah left feeling a spark of hope. But as she walked to her car, Karen cornered her in the parking lot. You think you're clever, huh? Dragging your governor buddy into this. Sarah faced her. He's following the law. Karen. Unlike you. Karen's eyes blazed. You'll regret this. I know people too. She stormed off, heels clicking. Sarah drove home, adrenaline fading to exhaustion. What had she started? The next day, a notice arrived. HOA fined for nuisance behavior at the meeting. $500. Sarah crumpled it. This was war. She called Mark. We need a plan. He agreed. Public hearing next week. Bring everything. Sarah spent days preparing, gathering statements from old-timers who remembered her grandparents' boundaries. Tom signed one, hesitantly. Linda too, whispering, "Don't tell Karen." Emotions swirled. Anger at the injustice, fear of losing her heritage, a twisted satisfaction at seeing Karen unravel. One evening, as Sarah gardened, a car pulled up. Betsy, the whisperer from the ceremony. I'm sorry about before. Karen pressured us. Sarah straightened. Why tell me now? Betsy glanced around. She's melting down, yelling at her husband about that bitch Sarah. Thinks you're plotting with the governor. Sarah almost laughed. If only. Join us at the hearing, she said. Betsy nodded, fleeing. The hearing loomed. Sarah practiced her speech, heart heavy with stakes. If she lost, the land was gone, paved over for progress. But if she won, well, that was for later. For now, the drama simmered, tensions rising like heat before a storm. Karen plotted her countermoves. Mark navigated politics. And Sarah? She stood her ground, literally. The ribbon still fluttered, a mocking symbol. But the cut wasn't final yet. Sarah sat at her kitchen table, the county hearing notice crumpled in her fist. The date was set, next Thursday. 7 days to prepare, to rally, to fight. But already, the neighborhood buzzed like a hive disturbed. Texts pinged her phone, anonymous tips, whispered alliances. One from Linda. Karen's calling an emergency board meeting. Watch your back. Sarah sipped her tea, the warmth doing little to ease the chill in her bones. She'd always been the quiet one, the holdout in a sea of conformity. Now, she was the rebel. Mark had warned her. Politics in suburbs are dirtier than downtown. He wasn't wrong. That afternoon, as she raked leaves in her yard, a familiar SUV pulled up. Karen, stepping out in yoga pants and a hoodie. Casual, but her eyes sharp as knives. She marched over, clipboard in hand. Sarah, we need to talk. Sarah leaned on her rake, feigning calm. About. Karen thrust the clipboard forward. A petition. Neighbors want the playground to stay. For the greater good. Sarah scanned it. Dozens of signatures, some she recognized. Tom's was there, shaky script. Her heart sank. Tom signed this. Karen smirked. Everyone sees the value. Except you. Sarah handed it back. This changes nothing. It's my land. Karen's voice rose, a hint of that infamous meltdown creeping in. You're selfish. Think of the kids playing there already. You want to tear it down? Over my dead body. A few curtains twitched in nearby windows. Sarah kept her tone even. Build it elsewhere. Not on my property. Karen stepped closer, face flushing. You and your precious deeds. I've got lawyers too. And connections. She spun away, but not before muttering. This isn't over. Sarah watched her drive off, tires squealing slightly. Petty, she thought, but effective. That evening, Sarah met Mark at a diner on the edge of town, neutral ground. He slid into the booth, looking harried. Busy day? He nodded, ordering coffee. Karen's husband called my office. Threatening audits if we side against the HOA. Sarah's eyes widened. Can he do that? Mark shrugged. Bluff, mostly. But it stirs mud. They pored over documents, maps, emails, old photos of the property. Sarah pointed to a faded snapshot. Her grandparents under the oak tree. This proves it. Mark smiled faintly. Emotional appeal. Good for the hearing. But doubt gnawed at her. What if they lost? The land developed. Her memories paved over. No. She'd fight smarter. Inspired, she started a neighborhood group chat, excluding Karen's allies. Let's share stories, she typed. Responses flooded in. Tom. She fined me $200 for my bird feeder. Said it attracted vermin. Linda. My kid's lemonade stand. Shut down for commercial activity. Even Betsy. Painted my shutters blue. Got a violation notice same day. The tales poured out. Petty tyrannies, power trips. Sarah felt a surge of solidarity. This wasn't just her battle. The next morning, a delivery truck rumbled up to the playground. Workers unloaded benches, planters, expanding it further onto her land. Sarah rushed out. What's this? The foreman shrugged. HOA order. Beautification phase 2. She called Karen. No answer. Instead, a text. Progress waits for no one. Sarah's blood boiled. She grabbed her phone, recording the workers. Evidence. Then, she marched to Tom's house. He opened the door, sheepish. Sarah, the petition. She cornered me. Sarah nodded. I get it. But join me at the hearing? He hesitated, then agreed. One condition, anonymity for now. Fair enough. Back home, she plotted. Revenge? Not outright, but clever. She researched HOA bylaws, loopholes. Found one. Board members must disclose conflicts. Karen's husband on the planning board? Potential bias. She emailed her lawyer. Look into this. The reply, on it, could be gold. Days blurred into preparation. Sarah canvassed discreetly, knocking on doors. Some slammed shut. Others opened wide. A widow down the street. Karen harassed me about my Christmas lights. Too gaudy. A young couple. We moved here for peace. Not this drama. Allies grew. But so did the backlash. Vandalism struck. Her mailbox spray-painted. HOA hater. Sarah stared at it, anger mixing with fear. Kids? Or Karen's doing? She reported it to the police, but they dismissed it as prank. Neighborhood spat, the officer said. Mark called that night. Heard about the mailbox. You okay? Yeah. Just escalating. Stay safe. Karen's unraveling. Indeed. The emergency board meeting minutes leaked, via Linda. Karen ranting. Sarah's a threat to our values. We must unite. Power trip in full swing. Sarah smiled grimly. Let her melt down publicly. Wednesday, eve of the hearing. Sarah rehearsed in her mirror. Facts, emotions, poise. A knock. Linda, with cookies. Peace offering. And intel. They sat on the porch. Karen's prepping witnesses. Claiming you've neglected the land. Inviting squatters. Sarah laughed bitterly. Neglected? It's natural habitat. Linda nodded. She's also spreading rumors about you and Mark. Sarah froze. What kind? Old flames, favoritism, juicy stuff. Heat rose in her cheeks. Mark was like a brother, but mud stuck. Don't let it rattle you, Linda said. Sarah nodded, but doubt seeded. The hearing dawned gray and drizzly. Sarah arrived early, suit pressed, folder thick. The county chamber filled, neighbors, officials, even press. Mark presided neutrally, gavel in hand. Karen entered last, entourage in tow. She glared at Sarah, taking her seat. Proceedings began. HOA presentation first. Karen stood, composed. Ladies and gentlemen, this playground enhances our community. Ms. Thompson's claims are outdated. She flashed slides, happy kids, property values up, murmurs of approval. Then, her lawyer argued adverse possession, easements. Sarah's turn. She approached the podium, knees shaky. Deep breath. My grandparents bought this land in 1952. Here's the deed. She passed copies. No easement. Survey confirms. She shared photos, stories. Emotions welled, voice cracking on memories. The room quieted. Questions flew. A counselor, Ms. Wilkins, addressed the conflict of interest. Karen bristled. My husband's role is irrelevant. But seeds planted. Testimonies followed. Tom spoke up, voice trembling. Karen's overreached. Fines, threats, gasps. Linda, it's dictatorship, not association. Karen's face purpled. She interrupted. Lies. They're in cahoots with Sarah. Mark banged the gavel. Order. But the meltdown brewed. Karen stood, pointing. You're ruining everything. Directed at Sarah. Security hovered. The hearing recessed for deliberation. Sarah paced the hall. Mark approached. Good job. But it's close. She nodded. Outside, rain poured. Karen cornered her again. You think you've won? I'll appeal. Sue you bankrupt. Sarah met her gaze. Try it. Karen stormed off. Back inside, deliberations dragged. Hours passed. Finally, announcement. Temporary injunction. Playground halted pending full review. Victory? Partial. Cheers from allies. Karen fumed, gathering her papers. This isn't over. She left in a huff. Sarah exhaled, relief flooding. But suspense hung. Review could go either way. That night, celebration at the diner. Sarah, Mark, Linda, Tom. Toasts to small wins. Yet, shadows loomed. An anonymous email arrived. Watch your back. Karen's plotting. Sarah shivered. What next? Revenge plans? More encroachments? The oak tree swayed in the wind, secrets whispering. The playground sat silent, ribbon frayed. Tension coiled, ready to snap. Sarah locked her doors, mind racing. The storm was just beginning.